Coming at you live from the depths of the Hive. We are back, and it's Saturday morning.
Then science came along and taught us that we are not the measure of all things, that there are wonders unimagined, that the universe is not obliged to conform to what was considered comfortable or plausible.
Then, over millions of years, evolution took its course. Of course, I'm obligated by the state of Kansas to present the church's alternative to the theory of evolution.
Touch it. What? You touch it. You afraid? Oh, touch it. You totally didn't touch it. Well, then you touch it.
Sorry, you can hear me for a second there. Good morning, everybody. I was distracted because my camera stopped broadcasting, so I had to go in there and fix it, and you all got to witness that. So, wonderful times we're having already first thing this morning. Happy Saturday. We are live from the Hive, and look at all these gorgeous folks in my side chat here. Good morning, everybody. It's so good to see all my friends coming in to hang out with me. We got Tobin and Carol, and we got Ring and Greg and Ben and Paul. And so basically 411, Vandalia. Good morning, everybody. I'm so excited to be doing this show today. If you're new here, welcome to the Hive. We talk about a few different topics. The show is broken down into little segments. We start off with doing a nice little bug of the week where we look at a select group, either a family, genus, or species of arthropod or arthropod ally, and kind of explore their ecology and learn a little bit about them. Then we do CryptoCorner, where we take some paranormal or supernatural cryptozoological claim, and we crack it open, and we sort of examine what's being presented and see if it holds up as something unnatural happening. It never does. And then we do Creation Watch, where we find some young Earth creation claims from one of the various institutions or publications, and we kind of go over that, and we also do the same thing and see if it holds water and holds up to reality. It never does. And then we go into some hive science, where we just explore some peculiarities or novel discoveries in science, and always have a good time over there. So let's see what we got going on today. Before I get started, of course, I like to do a little intro spiel where I talk about different various topics in the community. There are a few things I just wanted to bring up because they keep coming up in the community, and I can't not talk about them. The first thing I want to talk about is Dr. Price in the Pine Creek interview. I did watch a good portion of that, about the first 45 minutes of it or so, and I couldn't deal anymore. I just wanted to have an informed opinion on it, because when I was seeing different clips of the video, the way the interview went and the things that were said in the interview, I was told that I needed that I wasn't allowed to have an opinion on it because I didn't sit and watch the whole 2.5 hour video. So I went and saw did about as much as I could stomach, because there was enough for me to be like, forget both of these guys. I don't want anything to do with them. This is not a This is not a space for allies. This is not a space for members of the. It's not a space for members of the LGBTQ, but it's also not a space for members of any minority group. The way that Dr. Price was allowed to pontificate about race issues the way he did without any kind of pushback. I'm not going to talk too much about it or go into any kind of detail. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on it. Because I was told, oh, you don't get to have an opinion because you didn't watch it. So I did go watch some of it. No, not for me. I will not be supporting. Of course, I was never going to be supporting Dr. Price. I was never going to be. I actually thought that Pine Creek was somebody we could have interactions with, but I'm no longer in that headspace. I don't think that. I think that he's exploiting these issues and exploiting the controversy with Dr. Price to get gains. I stand with Derek on that. Derek Lambert of Myth Vision, which is a fun channel if you haven't subscribed and you're interested in ancient Near East mythology and stuff. Go check it out. No, it's not just ancient Near East. It's he goes into other areas too. He talks about I saw him doing some Hellenistic stuff the other day. All right, the other thing going on in the world today is, of course, the slap heard around the world. And that was the Oscar slap of Will Smith walking up on stage and slapping Chris Rock. Got some opinions on that too. I'm just going to lay them down here real simple. Chris Rock's an insult comic. Insult comics are not my favorite. I don't see the benefit of it. I think that they make me feel like the scene from Nutty Professor when the comedian was laying into him. That's how insult comics make me feel. That's just because I don't know, maybe I'm emotionally fragile about it or not, but it just doesn't appeal to me. Just have somebody sit there and stand up on stage and point at people in the audience and point out their physical things that they think are hilarious about their physical appearance. That's just not my thing. It's not my bag. I'm not saying that I don't see how that can be funny to somebody else, but somebody who struggled with my looks and stuff like that, especially more recently, it doesn't appeal to me, and I'm not allowed to have an opinion about that stuff. Vandalia. Okay, I'll keep an eye on your show to see if it's canceled, but yeah, I think that everybody deserves to have an opinion on that, and I'm proud to tell everybody where I stand on these positions and on these issues, because it opens me up to engage about these things. These are things that I'm willing to engage in to an extent. Again, like I said, I do have I'm completely open about that. I'm a little fragile about some of the trans stuff. I'm trying to be better about that because I need to be a better communicator about it. I've been watching a lot of my ally friends and the way that they engage with the world, so I'm working on it. But it does start to creep up into my feels a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a human with my own bias. Yeah, it's like a comedy roast with but not planned. Well, I think it is planned though. If you hire an insult comic to speak at your venue, then you expect them to be insulting the audience. That's what they do. That's their MO. Chris Rock does do that. Chris Rock is from that generation of comedy, early 90s. A lot of like young black comedians especially, but not just young black comedians, but just a whole generation of folks that made a living off picking people out of the audience and just being silly about their appearance and stuff, and it worked. Chris Rock made quite a good career. He branches out from that. That's not his only MO anymore, or I don't think it ever was. I think it was just part of his shtick. I think it's like when he comes out, what he does when he opens up. It's his openers to engage with the audience. Yeah, it was in bad taste. The joke. It was not a good joke. It wasn't funny. It wasn't. I didn't feel that it was adding anything to the show. G.I. Jane, for the people old enough to remember that movie. It's a good movie. It's very empowering for women and whatnot, but I don't think that's the way he meant it. He meant it to say, hey, haha, you're bald. Except I'm an insult comic, and that's what I do. But I digress. than Will Smith being able to walk up on the stage and just smack him right across the face. He got up in his feelings. I get it. Like I said, I'm an emotional creature myself, and I respond emotionally to different stimulation and whatnot. So I get that. What should have happened was there should have been somebody there at the steps to the stage or at the entry to the stage stopping him, because when you're speaking at a venue, when you're paid to speak at a venue, there's an understanding that the venue is going to offer you protection while you're speaking, because they're paying you to speak and say these things, that they're going to offer you some level of protection from from outsiders, from audience and members and people outside of the show. But even if you consider the people sitting up there in the front as part of the show, from the other performers for the night, you still get security and protection from the other performers interrupting your act as well, because you've been paid to get up there and speak and do your thing. Yeah, they can't control hecklers and people yelling at the stage, but they definitely can control people coming up on the stage and engaging with you physically. That's something that's definitely within the control, and something that a venue should. It's just implied that that's going to be the case when you contract to speak at a venue. That's just my opinion. Okay, that's my piece on that. Wow, I went on for about 15 minutes about that stuff, but just wanted to touch on it and give my place, say my piece, if you will. I am going to pop right into the show now, and we are going to start off with our bug of the week. Bug of the week is just randomly selected. Usually, the last couple of months I've been doing polls to pick our bug of the week, just to broaden it, just different categories and things. We have a few different categories of bugs of the week so far. We got the venom list, which will actually be returning to this week. So we did a poll, and the venomous creature that won is going to be our very first ant that's made the venom list. So we are going to be actually looking at the bullet ant. Now these are a South American species, and they are on the top, or towards the top of the Schmidt's sting scale, which is a scale that denotes pain, not necessarily the deadliness or anything. Hold on. Not saying that they're more or less deadly, but just that they are painful to humans, especially. They have a few different names in native tongues, but the name bullet ant actually comes from the old Spanish name, which they were the bala. Bala is the origins of their common name, but their scientific name is really fun to say, so I'm going to say it out loud for you right now. It's Paraponera clavata. Paraponera clavata. Isn't that fun to say? Now, the bullet ant was kind of made famous in the public eye by people getting stung by them and having reaction videos to what it felt like. And the main individual who people will cite for this is Coyote Peterson. And I just want to say, from what I understand, viewing other people's sting and bite videos, dealing with different arthropods, Coyote Peterson's a bit of a drama queen in the way that he reacts to this. And his reaction to the bullet ant was over the top. They had him laying on the ground like he was dying, basically. Good morning, Joan. Good morning, Pomodorino. Hello, everybody. So bullet ants are getting back to bullet ants, because I could go on a thing about Coyote Peterson. I don't think that everything that Coyote Peterson does is bad. I like that he's educating people, especially about these different arthropods, and yeah, definitely you need to have caution when you're dealing with an unknown species of anything, of ants, of spiders, of wasps, you need to be cautious. And that it does build a layer of caution, but it also builds a layer of maybe unnecessary fear, like of the bullet ant, for instance. But anyway, so to their ecology, bullet ants are they're scavenger feeders or predatory as well. They can be predatory. They feed mostly in the treetops. There's very, very little documentation of them actually feeding on ground level. These ants that are feeding on the ground in these videos or these clips are in captivity, so that's why they're not behaving exactly as they would in nature. But they live mostly in the trees. They collect arthropods is their target prey, but they'll also collect nectar from flowers and things like that. Different other organic choice protein and vitamin snacks for them to vitalize their colony. But yeah, they are highly predatory. Now they get confused a lot with like the driver ants, but the driver ants are actually don't live in colonies quite like this. They have biovacs, but we'll talk about driver ants on another occasion. But or army ants, but they do interact with the species because they share an environment. But these guys are basically the driver ants is the raiding Mongols. These would be like a peaceful tree people because they're not a highly aggressive species of ant. I mean, they will defend their hive and they will sting you. They will stand up for their colony and their queen and all their little babies in attack, but they're not as aggressive as a lot of other predatory ant species might seem. But they make up for it by packing a hell of a punch. They do have a massively painful sting. For an ant, it is considered, definitely for an ant, it's the cream of the crop. The bullet ant sting, right now, currently, not every organism has been tested, of course, and it may be knocked off of its throne, but it is the highest on the Schmidt's sting scale. I just want to stress that enough, which is, we talk about that a bit here, especially when we get into the venom list. Description of the effects: waves of burning, throbbing, all-consuming pain that continues unabated for up to 24 hours. Yeah. And there's a people group in South America that actually uses these ants as their rite of passage, where they put on these big gloves on their hands and and they fill them up with bullet ants, and that is their right to manhood. They got to be like chill about it and not react to it. I don't know what age they generally do that at. It doesn't say here. Let me see if we go into the page for the group here and see initiation rites. The Satir Mawe people intentionally use bullet ant stings as part of their initiation rite to become a warrior. The ants are first rendered unconscious by submerging them in a natural sedative, and then hundreds of them are woven into a glove made out of leaves, which resembles a large oven mitten. Stinger facing inward. When the ants regain consciousness, the boy slips the glove onto his hand. The goal of this initiation rite is to keep the glove on for a full 5 minutes. Did they use 5 minutes in their ancient rite? Did they have minutes? Did these indigenous people have minutes pre-Columbian contact? How did they do this before they had our very westernized measure of time? I don't know. All right. So anyway, that's bullet ants, a very fascinating ant species, and hopefully we'll be seeing more ants because there's a lot of variety. People think ants are homogenous, like I could do a bug of the week and just call it ants, but no, there's a lot of variety and a lot of differences in ecology, behavior, morphology. Ants are basically terrestrial wasp, and have about as much variety among ant species as there are among different wasp clades. but we'll see them as we move forward. Good morning, Crafty Keela. Good to see you. All right. So, let me clear my throat real quick. All right, that was there's something else in my throat there. I think maybe I'm coming down with something. But who likes CryptoCorner? So this month in CryptoCorner, Donna, who I haven't seen yet this morning, but maybe Donna will be here later. Donna was sending me some stuff on TikTok, some different videos and stuff, and I'm like, you know what? For the month of April, I'm going to do different TikTok topics for CryptoCorner. We're going to look at some different hashtags. So today's hashtag, I'm actually looking at hashtag witch talk, which WITCHTOK, like TikTok, because there are some different Bruja videos and different hag videos and things like that. Now, I'm not going to be focusing on like Wiccans, like people practicing New Age religions, though they do appear under that hashtag as well, Witch Talk. I am going to be focusing on the creepier stuff, the entities using nefarious paranormal powers and scare tactics to intimidate and frighten our audience. I'm going to start with a classic though, because I don't know if anybody else has seen this. This has been around for about a decade. I would say, and it is someone being chased by a alleged witch on a far off back road. There's been I've heard a few different origins of where this came from. Some said it was in Central America, Mexico, South America. I've heard it was in India, in the Middle East. I want to say, based on the people I'm hearing, I think it is somewhere in Central Asia or maybe the Near East in some area. But let's give this a watch and see. Maybe you all recognize the accent of the folks screaming in terror as this thing approaches them, and be able to pin down where they are located. Actually, I think I heard Spanish there. Did you hear Senora? I think this may be Spanish. Hold on. Let's keep going. It's just coming towards them. It's kind of like hobble walking. It looks like it has a cane, maybe. It's wearing a white gown, very clean white too, because it's showing up very well in the lights. I guess the quality of the video is not very good, but I think this is. I'm gonna mute this fella now. I think this is from about 2007, so I didn't expect good camera quality, but it was a really weird video. I think personally, my opinion on it is that this is a person in a costume and that this video is staged. Just my opinion, but because there's nothing happening in the video itself that couldn't be done properly. It's not like the Patterson Gimlin footage or something where, a human can't move like that. Oh, a human definitely can move like that. There's no indication that this is not a human. As a matter of fact, it's actually a bit longer too. The thing tries to go away, like walk away, and they decide to follow it, and then it turns around and does this. That's what this part is. They see it on the road. It turns towards them, and then it walks away as they start backing up. And as it's walking away, they put it in gear and go after it. And then it does this. That's why it's acting this way, allegedly in the nature of the video. Good morning, the Afro-Humanist. If there was any, if there was any witch lore from back in Nigeria, I believe you're from Nigeria. I'm sorry if I got that country wrong, where you originate from. But if there's any witch lore, I know that Nigeria is rife with witch lore. Drop it in the side chat, Esther, because we love to hear different cultural stuff. And I know that there's a lot of aversion to witches in African Christianity. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, this one was actually the first one I found when I was looking through, because I didn't know which hashtag I was going to go with, and this one came up, and I don't know. And I'll let his volume play too, because he's kind of funny.
F is that? Something's just standing there like a witch. What the hell is this, man? Bro, what the hell is this? Look at the legs it's got. Guys, what the F is that?
Yeah, I don't, I think maybe, can you all see my mouse? No. Okay. Damn it, TikTok, why don't you let me have my mouse on the screen? Okay, so what we have looks like there is maybe a dark figure back in the woods. He says it has legs. I don't know that I see it. I mean, he does sound like he genuinely thinks he's seeing something in his voice. But that could be acting too. I'm not going to say that it couldn't. But what we're looking at here definitely doesn't. I don't have any indication that it's human shaped, or that it's even an animal, because it's not moving. So that's my opinion on this one. It's interesting in that they're out in the forest in the snow, and he's seeing some kind of figure there, and he's live streaming. That's the story, though. That's the problem with a lot of these short clips with their story. There'll be a long, elaborate tale of supernatural interaction, and then there'll just be a clip that's a big old nothing burger like this, where there's nothing with it, nothing included. So I mean, if he had been listening, doing his middle of the forest live stream, like it says on the camera, because we all do the middle of the forest live stream, and it showed the space and there was nothing there, and then it panned back over and there was something there. If it was something clearer, if we could make out definition of the features, then yeah, I could see this being a thing. But right now it's just a big old nothing burger. All right, and I like that expression. I actually learned that from Gavin Herleman. He started saying nothing burger, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good description of a lot of things, including this video. Next. All right, witch caught chasing a man in Mexico. This one does not have any visual witches, but we do have some audio. Let's have a listen.
Ya casi llego a mi casa. Ay, güey, tengo un pinche paniqueado. Ay, no mames, perra madre. Ah, su puta madre. No mames. Oh, man.
All right, so this whole video, again, driven by the audio. It's much like the first video. This, where I said it's not Patterson Gimlin footage. This is I guess we call this the Sierra sounds of the witch talk world, because there's natural sources that this sound could be coming from, and to me there's no indication that this is not a sound that a human can make. That is my opinion. Sounds like humans yelling. Maybe this is a edited for fun, to like a prank video. Maybe it's the guy thought it was genuine and there's somebody actually messing with him. But either way, I think that this is what he's interacting with his people. Let's listen one more time. If you disagree with me with the audio here, let me know. And if you think it's something else or there's indication that there's something supernatural going on, definitely disagree with me in the comments below. All right, it's about to restart. I'm almost home, man. I'm panicking.
Ay, güey. Tengo un pinche paniqueado. Ay, no mames, perra madre. Ah, su madre.
Hold on. Is there something there up on the hillside? Right there? Keep missing it. Is that a person, a figure standing up there on the hill? Let's watch it through again. That's interesting if it is, but I don't know.
Madre.
Landscape, so.
Su madre. No mames.
Is that one there too? Maybe there is some visual stuff in this one. I thought I looked over it pretty good. Is that a figure right there as well? Standing in the back there? Could be. Not a lot of details on this. Just says Bruja witches caught.
No mames.
Boy walking home. Screaming.
Oh man.
I mean, he's got himself all out of breath on this too. All right. Looks like the Afro-Humanist has made a response to what I was saying there. I was accused of being a witch because someone showed me in the dream offering the oranges. It turns out if you offer anything sweet in the dreams the person is trying to initiate, are you okay? Are you? People have been said to turn into birds and different animals. They believe that people change into animals for evil. The New Age circles, there was kind of a notion of that too. They didn't present the case that you could turn into a physical animal. It was like a spirit form that people might see, and that was the explanation for why, like a skinwalker, for instance, why it appears to be a full animal, because it's the spirit form, and then it's casting that spirit form over their physical body via a spell, and then they stand up and become their true selves, still wearing the animal skin to give the the indication that that's what was allowing them to transform. But if you look at the way that they move when they're in their off, I'm going to get into skinwalkers again. We've already been there. If you want to look at skinwalkers, I have a video about it. And skinwalker, I might do a skinwalker segment on the TikTok videos if I find enough of them. But let's pop over to the next one. Thank you so much for sharing that about your experiences back in Africa, back in Nigeria, the Afro-Humanist. Does anyone else notice that sudden his before the alleged witches begin to wail? Sounds like it could be I know it does. It starts suddenly. I'll listen to that again. Like, there's no sound. There's like someone hit a play button. Yeah, I get that too. But moving on to the next one. Oh, this kind of borders the in between witch and ghost, but interesting nonetheless. Mm-hmm. What's the audio? Spooky music.
Allahu Akbar.
Here's our figure.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Ah!
In like some kind of basement, maybe abandoned ruins. There's a staircase, and back underneath it, behind there is a figure hanging.
Allahu Akbar. Ah!
And she shoots through the ceiling, or through a hole in the ceiling, maybe? Hard to say, because he doesn't go back over there and look up. But Let's see if we can pause it and get a good look at the surroundings when she right before when he zooms in on her here. Okay.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Guy's shaking. I don't see any hole above her head here. But she just goes right through the floor. So I think this is CGI. It has all the indicators of CGI. He walks around in the abandoned area with his camera. And they put in the long-haired. Yeah, again, this probably would have been better to talk about with like Ghost, but because this kind of looks like the typical long-haired Japanese girl ghost, where their hair hangs down on their face, like The Ring or The Grudge, that kind of entity, I think is what we're seeing here. But they do, in Japanese folklore, it really does, toe that line between witch and ghost. They're not a human. They were never a human, as from what I understand. For these entities, they were that's just their ecology in the spirit realm, so to speak. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna call that one CGI. Moving on. Ooh, here we go. Real witch caught on camera. Who is ready for this? Let's see what we have. Oh, we're not gonna play that. It's got Tiptoe Through the Tulips playing in the background. We can't be playing that. So we had to peek up around the corner there. All right, we'll watch it through again. So, guys, let's see. They stumble across a I don't know why I keep putting T's on the end of everything. Little ritual spot, something red and something glowing in the middle there, with a circle of little black candles around it. There's pan over to this brick wall with a window. There is a creepy face looking in. Ducks out of the way. They run around to have a look. Nothing's there. Nothing's there. So, and then we get a closer look at the face, but if I pause it, puts the puts the play button right over the face. Isn't that wonderful? But looking at it, so head's down low right here, and they come around the corner. And look, the window's not extremely high. We don't see what's around the further corner here, because there's a right angle of brick walls, which you can see earlier on in the video. Here's the other brick wall, so it's a right angle of brick walls. We don't know what's on the other side of that. I'm speculating. My speculation, of course, is my own, and I don't expect anybody else to adhere to it, but this is a Halloween mask. I don't think this is a real person's face. Just based on some of the features, there's no real, just from the stills that I can apply here, we're lacking like a brow ridge. The morphology is all wrong for an actual human skull. If they're going to claim this is a supernatural monster or something like that, then okay, it doesn't have to have a human skull. But if they're going to say it's a witch, which should be a human, should be a person, then yeah, we're dealing with some gross anatomy that would need to be. You think there'd be some kind of treatment record for this, for somebody dealing with this many? We call them mutations, morphological abnormalities, to give someone a facial structure like this. Not to say that people don't, have large hooked noses, sunken eyes, and no brow ridges. No real, from what I can tell here, no real maxilla. That could be because she's missing teeth too. Of course, I say she. There's no indication that this is male or female, but the lack of teeth would give the impression that there's no maxilla. That there's just the nose and then the lips right underneath it. It's a strange appearance, but that can't happen if the individual's missing teeth and they close their mouth all the way and their face kind of sinks in. So that could happen. But someone to have all these facial features in one individual, that condition existed, then it would be understood by our scientific community, I think. Again, disagree with me below if you think something different about this one, but we are gonna move right along. Flying witches in Mexico. Mexico is very popular for the Bruja sightings. I think we see something floating in the distance. This is 2006, according to the timestamp. This has been stabilized too. You can see from the way the timestamp's jumping around that this was not a stable video by any means. But our figure continues to go on a stable path to the right here, and does not appear to move or and interact with any of the environment. Just on a straight linear path, almost like it's sliding on a rope or line. It could also be a balloon, but I don't know that a balloon would keep this straight trajectory without any rising or falling, based on the different air pressures as it moves along. Have you ever watched a balloon drift along in the sky? They go up and down. The wind batters them around. The warm and cool air tosses them and turns them. They don't generally stay on such a straight path. That's why I was saying it looks like maybe a line, maybe a like a zip line. It's a little slow for a zip line, but at this distance, it all depends a lot on distance and angle. It does, to me, look a lot like a zip line. The way that the body moves. I don't know if it's a body. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a person on a zip line. It could be a dummy. You're not even a dummy because it's not necessarily humanoid in shape. This is the longest TikTok I've ever seen. 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Oh, there's Barky girl. Sorry. All right, this video has been enhanced and stabilized. We appreciate that, so we can get a better look at our alleged witch. Do you see a humanoid shape here? I'm not saying it's not a humanoid shape, because it could be, but I don't think it doesn't seem like something that would that there's any way to fly this way. Really think it looks like a zip line to me, but that's my opinion. Again, always free to disagree with me in the comments below. All right, and moving right along. We are going to... Oh, this one's my favorite. This one's my favorite. There's no audio for it. Well, there's like a robot voice reading the clips here, or reading the writing on the screen here, but I'm going to do that myself. And we're going to watch this interaction. A group of explorers go into the forest known for having witches in Mexico. They encounter a couple of witches doing a ritual, and when the witch gets close, he attacks one of the explorers, trying to choke the shit out of him. As they try to defend themselves, another witch comes from behind, forcing them to try to leave. But when they try to leave, one of the witches starts throwing fireballs like he's Mario. That's why this is my absolute favorite of these videos. The witch is throwing fireballs at him. Look at that. Whoosh. So they find them at their little fireside ritual, and they go up to them. And yeah, when the witches get closer, it looks like the guys are moving up on the witches, right? But anyway, the witch starts choking one of the dudes. I allegedly that's what's happening there. And then another one pops up behind him, right? And this dude's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you with my whatever he's holding there. I don't know if it's mag light maybe, but it launches a fireball at him like straight out of D&D." Oh man, here's another angle of it. Yeah, whoosh. I think this is staged and choreographed. I think these people are all together doing this. That's my opinion on it. I love the inclusion of the fireball, though. Really, really sells the that these are actual witches, not just some neo-pagans or kids messing around, but actual witches with powers, supernatural powers to throw fireballs. And I mean, choking someone, obviously, that's not exactly a witchy supernatural power, but you know, being able to cast different fireballs. I wish one of them would throw like an ice ball. Ring, can you tell me what level of fireball that was? I don't know if you can tell from the video or not, if it's like a level 3 or how much damage it actually did. It didn't do any damage because the dude dodged it, which I guess I don't know what he rolled for that, but he managed to dodge it. All right, and lastly, this is a point I wanted to push home, and this person's kind of in the same boat as me. So let's hear what they have to say. All right.
Oh my god, you guys. Okay, so you know that whole thing going around TikTok about witches and how they used to fly on their brooms, like made an ointment or whatever, and they used to fly on their brooms or whatever because they put like a bunch of crazy crap on the end of a broom and then stuck it up, you know. And where is it? Okay, so flying ointment number 1, page 29.
Flying ointment.
So we're gonna flip it to, yeah, I straight found that recipe. Look at this one. Belladonna
Yeah, let's look at this. She goes through the list too. We got opium, belladonna, hemlock, hemp.
Flying ointment? Are you serious? Opium? Like, where did they get this?
Now the other one
So
she
we're
looked
gonna
at first.
Flip it to, yeah, I straight.
Has hashish in it, lard. I believe that in the old grimoires and stuff, the lard would actually have been human fat. Was the preferred ingredient for your flying ointment or your werewolf ointment, because they're basically the same. If you look into the history of them, it's just something that's alleged to cause psychological effects. Handful of hemp flowers, handful of poppy flowers. So we got hemp and opium. Ground sunflower seeds. That's kind of mundane. But this one,
Found that recipe. Look at this one. Belladonna.
Yeah, belladonna and hemlock are both poisonous. Be careful ingesting anything like that. Opium will make you fly.
Hemlock. Flying ointment. Are you serious? Opium? Like, where did they get this? This is crazy. I can't believe this was in here.
So this TikTok actually made me want to look into different witch recipes. So I did go out into the wiki article about the flying ointment. So let's have a look at that. Where are we gonna go? Here we are. We are going to switch views just a second here. So I got this kind of set up, but I'm still learning it. Like I was saying before, I have kind of a new setup. So flying ointment is a hallucinogenic ointment said to have been used by witches in practice of European witchcraft for at least as far back as the early modern period, while detailed recipes for such preparations were first recorded. All right, so yeah, you got, they call it different things here. Witch's flying ointment, green ointment, magic salve, or lycanthropic ointment. Yeah, they called this werewolf ointment in some of the different books that I had read. This is also what they put on the inside of their wolf pelts, whether it's just a belt that they wear around their waist or a pelt that they wear over themselves. And we'll talk about that more when I do an actual Crypto Corner on werewolves and the mythology around that, which will be coming up. I think I'm going to do monsters in October and kind of do like an origin of them. We'll talk about like the Highgate vampire and stuff. But we'll get to that when the spooky season is upon us again. For right now, though, we're gonna stick to witch talk here and look at what the ointments that are alleged to give people the ability to fly here. So, the composition, Francis Bacon, attributed as Lord of Verulam, listed the ingredients of witch ointments as the fat of children digging out of their graves, of juice of smallage. Oh, celery. Okay. Never heard it called smallage before. Wolfsbane, cinquefoil, another flour, mingled with the meal of fine wheat flour. Okay, so it's just basically human fat with a whole bunch of different ingredients. Wolfsbane, of course, we get back into our hallucinogens and dangerous recommendations to consume this in any dose without proper clinical instruction. Unrelated to Francis's account, poisonous ingredients listed in works on ethnobotany include belladonna, henbane bell, jimson weed, black henbane, mandrake, hemlock, and or wolfsbane, most of which contain allotropin, hycycamine, or scopolamine. Scopolamine can cause psychotropic effects when absorbed transdermally. These tropane alkaloids are classified as delirants in regard to their psychoactive effect. So, yeah, they basically call it, this is stuff that's going to induce hallucinations in people who put it on their skin or are exposed to that skin, whether they put it directly on their skin, as some accounts would have them do, whether they put it on their broom and then straddle that broom, whether they put it on the inside of an animal pelt and wrap it around themselves, whether they put it into like a face paint, like what you'd see in the Lucy tradition from Navajo tradition, with the corpse or the white paint that they put on is also thought to include similar psychotropic ingredients. All right. So yeah, that's the witch ointment, and they use that to fly, and that is gonna wrap it up here for Crypto Corner, exploring the hashtag witch talk. Let me just pop through the live chat here, make sure I didn't miss anything fun and awesome from my fun and awesome audience. Nah, if that's a D&D spell, it would be a firebolt. If it was a fireball, the screen would be filled with flames. D&D fireballs fill a 20-foot radius sphere. See how high she flies. Okay. Is that a Bunsen burner? For sure, firefight. I recommend DMT. Yeah, so hallucinogens. Hallucinogens are the source of witches' powers. If we look through their own very own grimoires and see what they're doing. Yeah, Jimson weed can cause very negative side effects. Listen to Dr. Ben, because they take their medical exams and this stuff pops up all the time. Jimson weed is strongly recommended against using it for recreational use, because you will have the most horrifying experiences, statistically speaking. I mean, yeah, not everybody who takes Jimson weed has a bad trip, but a bad trip is definitely in the cards. Most of the cards are a bad trip. If you manage to dodge that, you just got lucky. All right. So now, Jimson weed is infinite. Yeah, medical board exams. All I know is there are tangerine trees and marmalade skies. That is true. Jimson weed, aka loco weed, absolutely. Yeah, Jimson weed is the ingredient that popped out to me too. I wasn't sure if anybody else was familiar with it, but I kind of guessed that Dr. Ben would be that Dr. Ben would be in the know about Jimson weed. 1 second, I'll be right back. I'm sorry. This is sorry about that. Had the dog was having issues outside, so I had to go let her in. Okay, student Dr. Ben, were there any lasting side effects of Jimson weed? Is it a toxin that continues to poison lifelong, or is it temporary? Probably not long term, but while the drug is active, it functions as an anti-cholinergic, yeah. All right. So that was CryptoCorner for Saturday, April 2nd. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are watching this on Friday, thank you for coming to my premiere, and please remember to be kind and take care. All right. Here we go. It is time for, not CONSERVAPEDIA. We haven't done CONSERVAPEDIA in a while. Well, we have done CONSERVAPEDIA videos that have been re-released, but we haven't done a fresh CONSERVAPEDIA. Are we overdue for CONSERVAPEDIA? If you want to see me do a CONSERVAPEDIA article for next week's Creation Watch, let me know. Let's do it this way, since let's put a 1 in the side chat if you would prefer a CONSERVAPEDIA episode for next Saturday for Creation Watch, or put a 2 if you wanted me to continue exploring some of these creationist organizations, because we can go either way. It doesn't make a difference to me. I just enjoy cracking them open and examining them. Today on CONSERVAPEDIA, again, I said it again. Today on Creation Watch, we're looking at something from wrong screen. Something from AIG, from Answers in Genesis, and this is actually written by Ken Ham himself. So I will be responding to Ken Ham today. Fun times. All right. Let's see here. So this, when I saw that Ken Ham, because this is like a daily thing he does, but when I saw that he was talking about, are we ready for conversations with aliens? I really wanted to know what the creationists think of conversations with aliens and the proposition of aliens existing at all. All right. How can you know? This is by Ken Ham. It's fairly new, March 21st. So it's from within the last 2 weeks. Featured in Ken Ham. How to talk to extraterrestrials. We may play this in a minute, but I'm going to read what our friend Ken has to say. How should we communicate with extraterrestrials if we make direct contact with some distant species? Well, that's not going to happen. You can read this article for my reasons why, and we may go to that too. But questions like that were recently discussed during an event sponsored by Harvard's Mind-Brain Behavior Interfaculty Initiative. Why are scientists such as those who participated in this discussion so sure we will someday encounter alien life? It's because of their evolutionary worldview. In the Popular Science articles linked above, one scientist who believes we should take the search for ET more seriously states, we know the stars formed before the sun by billions of years. We know that they have planets like the Earth around them. So the environment that we have is not rare. Now, he doesn't know the stars are billions of years old. He assumes that based on his evolutionary assumptions and against evidence to the contrary. He also doesn't know that Earth-like planets exist to make our environment not so rare. So-called Earth-like planets are only vaguely Earth-like and nothing even close to Earth, which is perfectly suited for life. Life has been discovered. Okay. He makes such statements not because of the observational evidence, but because of his evolutionary worldview. Okay, so we do know there are Earth-like planets. We can people that are smarter than me and smarter than Ken know how to or know the ways to look at heavenly bodies and examine what their composition is, how much hydrogen, how much oxygen, how much methane, all these different factors that come into play. We know how to examine these environments. If Ken thinks that Earth's environment is perfectly suited for life, I think that there's a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of our environment that is ever in fluctuation. It hasn't been anything but stable over the 4.5, or is it the Earth is 4.5 is life. Earth 7.8, right? Is the current estimate for the age of the Earth? I think. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong in the side chat. I'm running on memory here. But regardless, it's billions of years old. And during that time, we have seen it be a planet of volatile gas with acid rain and boiling seas. The environment has not been this stable, perfect for life setup that Ken wants to present here. Life itself went a long way towards sculpting the current environment. We had the rainforest of the Carboniferous that changed the environment because they sucked up all the carbon dioxide and released all this oxygen into the environment. So then we had high oxygen levels, and things have changed quite a bit, is my point. And life adapts to those changes. So a planet that is Earth-like could be Earth-like at any of its stages at which it was supporting life, and still not be capable of supporting all the life on Earth. But we can put extremophiles onto a planet that is like early Earth. Like we could put tardigrades on a planet like that. and they could survive. So they could support life. We can see that. We can look at the chemical composition of these planets and know that they can support life, because we could send our life over to them. When we've tested these extremophiles to know that they can survive the environments of these other planets. So these other planets can support life. We know, based on the chemical observations that we can see of these heavenly bodies around other stars, and based on the survivability of extremophiles here on Earth that could survive on those planets, we can say that these planets could support life. That's beyond a doubt. We can do that. So you are wrong, Mr. Ham. But we'll continue with his article. You see, if the universe is billions of years old, as he believes, then life must have evolved somewhere in the universe. Earth can't be special. It's just one of many planets that happen to have conditions suitable for life. Given the vastness and supposed age of the universe, life must have evolved somewhere else. That is why he says humans must try to conquer their sense that they are at the pinnacle of creation, and instead understand that they are instead likely somewhere in the middle of the distribution of intelligence in the Milky Way galaxy. I tend to agree with him. If the universe is billions of years old, as he believes, then life must have evolved somewhere else in the universe. Yeah, that is the probability of our current model, that life would have evolved elsewhere in the universe as well. That's what our model indicates. Now, that's not to say that life would have contacted us, or that we would have found life already, though we can find traces that would indicate that life could have been sustained on the planet like we were talking about. Whether other planets, again, can sustain life or not is not even up for question anymore. We know that other planets can sustain life because we have life that could survive on them here on Earth. But he's wrong, because he starts with the wrong foundation of man's idea. He comes to the wrong conclusion about the world around us. When we look to God's word, we get the true history of the universe. According to God's word, God created everything, including all the stars and exoplanets, in just 6 days a few thousand years ago. He formed the earth, not countless numbers of exoplanets, to be inhabited, and it is to earth that he sent his son to die for mankind's sins. By the way, do you think these scientists would be prepared to discuss looking for evidence there is a creator behind life in the universe? No, because they reject the idea outright regardless of the evidence. It's because the evidence is actually fairly weak. What scientific evidence do we have for a creator? You make inferences about things that we don't know. When you evoke a creator, we should not assume a creator or any agency behind the current state of the universe until there's evidence to that notion. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world. I'm going to trip over my tongue again. In the thing that we have ever made, so they are without excuse. Romans 1:20. So just saying that God already gave you evidence and you don't have an excuse to not believe in him. I can't control what I believe in Romans 1:20 and can him. I can't say, oh man, I can't, I need to believe it. Even if I wanted to believe it, I couldn't make myself believe something, because that's not how belief works. Get more answers on Answers News. We're not gonna watch Answers News, but living in a simulation, Disney censoring same-sex relationships, laser-powered spaceships, and more. Yeah, the laser-powered spaceships is pretty cool. We should talk about that sometime on Hive Science, but where was that link to? You can read this. This is why, this is probably an older one, but this is why Ken says he doesn't believe in aliens. Do I believe in UFOs? Absolutely. Is there intelligent life in outer space? Well, when was this from, though? Let's get a date on it. December. Wow. this is an old one. 2007. He referenced, has he not updated his views on this stuff since 2007, since he's referencing back to that just last week? Although his questions intrigue scientists, theology can give us the answer. Occasionally at conferences, someone will ask, do you believe in UFOs? I usually answer, absolutely. Any flying object that can't be identified as a UFO. Yeah, that's what I do too. I was like, yep, I believe in UFOs. I think if you don't believe in UFOs, then you're not being critical enough, because anything's a UFO if you're bad enough at identifying things. Then I continue, but do I believe UFOs piloted by Vulcans, Klingons, or is that Kardashians? The answer is definitely no. Sorry, Star Trek fans. But if I don't believe in aliens flying around in UFOs, does that mean I reject the idea that intelligent life could exist in outer space? As one of my friends once said, looking at the mess people get themselves into in this world, sometimes I wonder if there's intelligent life on Earth, let alone in outer space. Making a joke there, I get it. A good friend of mine, Dr. Cliff Wilson, author of a 1,000,000-copy bestseller, Crash Go the Chariots, did a lot of research on UFOs. He once told me that he concluded that by far the majority were either misunderstood natural phenomenon or misinterpreted man-made objects. However, he did conclude that there was a very small percentage that couldn't be explained, and he allowed for the possibility of some supernatural origins, albeit evil. But regardless, he, like me, does not believe in intelligent physical beings on planets other than our Earth. A number of leading evolutionists, like the late Dr. Carl Sagan, don't you say unkind things about Dr. Sagan, Ken, I'm warning you, have popularized the idea that there might be intelligent life in outer space. I wouldn't give, you're giving Sagan too much credit here. Before Sagan was born, there was UFO lore and extraterrestrial lore. There were moon men, there were Martians. The War of the Worlds was done in like the 1930s. So yeah, no. Where was I? From an evolutionary perspective, it would make sense to suggest such a possibility. People who believe this possibility contend that if life evolved on Earth by natural processes, intelligent life must exist somewhere else in the far reaches of space, given the size of the universe and the millions of possible planets. One can postulate endlessly about the possibility of intelligent life in outer space, but I believe a Christian worldview built on the Bible rejects such a possibility, and here's why. We're going to say because Bible. That's going to be the answer for why we reject the possibility of extraterrestrial life. During the 6 days of creation in Genesis 1, we learned that God created the earth first. On day 4, he made the sun and the moon for the earth, and then he made the stars also. But we know from current dating methods of the universe that this is completely backwards. Stars formed first. Our sun was not one of the earliest stars, but it's not a by no means is it a young star. But then the Earth formed, or proto-Earth, I guess we should call it, because the current model is that it collided with Theia, another heavenly body in the early solar system, and that collision did create our moon. So the creation so far went stars, sun, earth, moon. That's the order that we understand that these heavenly bodies were formed. Earth, the center stage. From these passages of Scripture, it would seem that the earth is very special. It is center stage. Everything else was made for the purposes relating to the earth. For instance, the sun, moon, and stars were made for signs and for seasons and for days and years. Throughout the Old Testament, many passages distinguish between the heaven and the earth. Psalms 115:16 states, the heaven, even the heavens, are the Lord's, but the earth he has given to the children of men. But now we're in the heavens too, right? Because we're exploring the outer reaches of our solar system with our technology. So the heavens are no longer the domain of the Lord, it seems. So are biblical literalists against space exploration via Psalms 115:16? Is that the claim that we're going to get from Ken? Because it seems like that's the position he would take as a biblical literalist, that he would want us to stop exploring space because Psalms clearly tells us that they are for the Lord and not for us, that we're supposed to stay on earth. This is in this up here, this section here that I was reading about Genesis 1:14 for the science and season, that the notion that all the stars and all the far reaches of our universe and all the planets that circle those stars and the different asteroids and comets and meteors and all of these varied assorted objects moving around in our inner solar system and in our outer solar system and in the universe at large, were all put in place on the biblical model for us on this tiny little blue dot circling the sun. So tiny. I don't think that that's true at all in any way, shape, or form. I don't think that's what the evidence say. Yeah, your book can present that case, but your book also is from a time where they did literally think that. I mean, and they looked at because they looked at the skies and took the inference. I mean, that's the problem with going with your intuition on the nature of things. That's why why we get flat earthers even today, because standing on the object as it spirals through space, as we circle around the sun, as we spin, and the moon circles around us, and the sun circles around the Milky Way, and the Milky Way spirals through the cosmos and through the universe, and the universe bounces through the cosmos. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, with all of that in mind, I don't think that it is all set up to create seasons, days, and years. I just don't. I think that we infer that from the data. All right. Many other passages single out the earth as being special, made for humans to dwell on, and a focus of God's attention, such as Isaiah 66:1. Thus say the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. What a douche! I'm sorry. This passage makes God sound like a douche. We're his footstool down here on earth. Are we supposed to wash his toes? I think that's kind of the. We get a lot of simping for Yahweh from this court. So go figure, right? Washing God's toes on his footstool. We live on God's footstool is basically what this passage says. Isaiah 40:22 likens the heavens to a curtain that God basically stretched around him. It is he that sits upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretched out the heavens as a curtain and spread them out as a tent to dwell in. Yeah, this is the appeal to the firmament, a archaic cosmological idea that there was a dome over the top of the earth. That's what the sky was, and that's what the stars were, little pinholes in it that showed the light from beyond, which was the heavens. So yeah, it's just appealing to old cosmological mythology. Such verses certainly imply that the earth is to be considered separate and special when compared to the rest of the universe, so they suggest that the earth alone was created for life. So far, by man's limited exploration of space and the solar system, it certainly holds true. But there is a theological reason that I believe rules out the possibility of intelligent life in outer space. Y'all ready to visit Romans? All right. The Bible makes it clear in Romans 8:22 that the whole of creation groans because of Adam's sins. Yep, the whole of creation groans because of Adam's sins is ridiculous. Animals get punished. The planets get punished. Everything gets punished because this guy bit into an apple that his old lady offered him. Okay, when Adam fell, the entire universe was affected. Not only this, but one day in the future, there will be a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away. Revelations 21:1. Revelations is a fever dream, my friend. A fever dream. But I have little to no doubt that the universe will carry on through its various cycles of having active solar systems with planets with life on them and going into a stage of or a state of entropy and recombination and all this good stuff that we have in these new cosmological models that are coming out that are being explored and I guess bloviated upon a bit because I don't follow a lot of it. I can't understand a lot of it, but it's fascinating to watch. Anyway, let's see what Isaiah 34:4 states. And all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their host shall fall down, as the leaves fall off of the vine, and as the falling fig from the fig tree. All right, aliens and the fall. Now, here's the problem. If there are intelligent beings on other planets, they would have been affected by the fall of Adam because the whole creation was affected. So these beings would have to die because death was the penalty for sin. One day their planet will be destroyed by fire during God's final judgment, but they cannot have salvation because that blessing is given only to humans. Where does it say that in the Bible that blessing is given only to humans? It gives lots of citations here, but he doesn't cite that one. It's almost like that's his inference. When Jesus Christ stepped into history, he became the God-man. The Bible called him the last Adam and the second man, 1 Corinthians 15:45-47. He became the second perfect man. Adam was perfect before he sinned, and he took the place of the first Adam by dying for the human race. And the first Adam was the representative head of the human race. So Jesus became the new head, the last Adam. So there can be no other Savior, only Christ. Jesus sits in heaven, still in human form, sitting on his throne next to the Father. If Jesus stepped out of his human form, we would no longer have a Savior. He remains the God-man forever. The God-man is not a Klingon. They're really milking this Star Trek reference. But not Jesus. But no, Jesus didn't become a God Klingon, a God Vulcan, or a God Cardassian. He became the God man. But when you use the word man, does that apply to other species of mankind as well? Because man designates the genus Homo, which includes, but is not limited to, Homo floresiensis, Homo neanderthalensis, Homo erectus, and what do they call him? Homo denisovian. So yeah, does it apply to all those groups? It was which one of those was Adam? Which species of man was Adam? I need answers, Ken. Now, regarding animal life and plants, we cannot be so dogmatic because the Bible does not state whether life exists elsewhere in the universe. Based on the passages about the heavens and earth, however, I strongly suspect that life does not exist elsewhere. So next time you hear someone talking about UFOs, think on the scripture passages quoted above and use them to segue into a presentation of the gospel. For since by man came death, by man also came resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in Christ all shall be made alive. 1 Corinthians again, this time 15:21 through 22. Do we want to keep going with this? We are about an hour and a half, and I still have my Hive science to do. So we're going to call this day on the Creation Watch. Does Ken Hovind believe in alien life? No, he doesn't. Now let me pop out and see what our folks out here in the side chat are saying. Yeah, if I did these at 5 p.m., I could do live from the Hive at 5. Yeah, but that's not a good time. That's not a good time for me. Yeah, you have a good one, Joan. Let's see. They couldn't explain planetary retrograde motion, right? For a religion that is all about being humble, there's a lot of we are the center of everything and the most important creatures in the universe, right? Right? That we are the center of the universe. Why wouldn't there be an alien Jesus? There's no scripture that says there couldn't be an alien Jesus. There's just that this Jesus on this planet was a human. Doesn't mean that Jesus on Zorgog wasn't a Zorgogian. Or he likes to use Star Trek races, but are species of aliens. But I'm not a huge Star Trek fan. More of it was more into the TV shows that I watched was more like Buffy and stuff like that, Supernatural. Point against C.S. Lewis' space trilogy. Yeah, it's almost like applying a myth to real life gives weird results. Absolutely, Snake. But what about God Zorn? We technically the Malacandrins didn't fall, so shrugs. Okay. In time of need, carpenters are God. Okay. Carpenter ants. All right, so that was Creation Watch. Hope you all had fun. We are going to now move into Hive Science. So this will be a topic that actually I want to thank Purple. I saw Purple in here earlier. I don't know if Purple's still here or not, but you inspired today's topic because we are going to be talking about the size limits on the arthropod body and some fun ideas that people have come up with to explain this in works of fiction as well. So first and foremost, let's move into what is this is dated, of course, because we now have an arthropleura that was even bigger, but Giant Claw reveals the largest arthropod. This is from 2008, talking about what the biggest arthropod is. So the largest arthropod at the time this was written was aquatic, which it is an expectation because the largest animals, tetrapods or otherwise, have always been aquatic because buoyancy allows for the body to grow larger due to less physiological stress from the environment due to buoyancy. Jacaloteris reninia from the early Devonian was about 2.5 meters long, so bigger than the average person. I hear a lot of people say it was essentially the size of an alligator, which I'm okay with that comparison. I think alligators obviously probably do get quite a bit bigger than Jacaloteris grew, but there are some species of alligators and some species of crocodilian that do max out at this body size. So I would use the example of a caiman. That's my opinion. Maybe a spectacled caiman instead of an alligator. But the arthropleura has kind of, I think they're the newest finding. That one that we did a video on previously was like 2.7 meters long, so a little bit bigger. Is now considered the largest arthropod. It's completely terrestrial, which is interesting. And that's not to say that we won't find more species of aquatic arthropods or terrestrial arthropods that are bigger. But we can understand a lot about the limitations of the size of the organisms as they move through generations, getting larger and larger. What are the constraints? What are the fallbacks? The most popular and most common one pointed out when it comes to giant arthropods is the square cube law, but also, of course, the respiratory issues. Size matters for insects. In sci-fi, there's a lot of examples in which characters are attacked by giant insects or other arthropods, or even beings transformed into one of them, as in the Metamorphosis by Kafka. But are these situations really feasible? It would be possible to find giant insects nowadays? In this article, we will introduce you to what the main biological and anatomical principles, as well as the most important hypothesis that try to explain whether it would be possible a world inhabited by giant bees, ants, and spiders. I think they might have been missing a word there. Maybe I read it wrong though. All right, which factors limit the size of insects? Insects, and also the rest of arthropods, are considered small animals. Obviously, the term small is absolutely relative, although there does exist a species of ant as big as an elephant although there doesn't exist a species of ant as big as an elephant, at this point we can introduce the term allometry. If ants were giant, they would have elephant-like legs. Allometry, also called biological scaling, is defined as the change in organisms in relation to proportional changes in body size. It is, so to speak, a rule of proportionality. There are different meanings for this term. The ontogenetic one is the most famous definition: changes in the proportions of different body parts during the development of an organism. A human baby has a bigger head proportionate to the size of its body than an adult due to the different growth rates of each body part. It is important to add that each body part will always keep a link to the proportionality with the other ones, and this link is genetically determined. So yeah, basically like the size of the head, limbs, just all the different portions of the body compared to each other as we grow. And there's a reason, physiological constraints that drive that. In our case of study, the meaning of the term allometry is one related with a more anatomical point of view. Insects and the rest of arthropods are covered by a more or less hardened exoskeleton known as a cuticle, which is periodically replaced by molting processes, or ecdysis. This cuticle implies a lot of constraints on growth for these organisms due to its heaviness, because it's biomineralized. So if an ant grows, typo here, all you need is biology by WordPress. This is like a blog, so this is someone's think piece. I just thought it was fun to read. If an ant grows to be as big as an elephant, the weight of its cuticle would be out of proportion. This fact acquires more relevance if we take into account that arthropods are invertebrate organisms, so they don't have an internal structure that makes them internally solid. Thus, the most feasible scenario would be that their legs couldn't hold their body weight. So they will collapse. In order to hold a huge weight of these cuticles, the legs must be proportionately as large as the ones in an elephant or even bigger. I don't know about that. I think that we can look at Dinosauria with their hollow bones, because diapsids are kind of in between there because they have air pockets in between their bones. So having a cylinder that's hollow can be a strong structure. I mean, solid bones are good, but some of the biggest organisms that ever lived had hollow spaces in between, and that aided them in being larger, not hindered them. So I don't know if I agree with that they have to be elephant size. They definitely have to be proportionate. So they wouldn't just look like an ant's leg now compared to his body. They would be bulkier in comparison to support that weight. Now they wouldn't, and you also have to keep in mind that they'd be supported by 6 limbs instead of just the 4 that we see in an elephant. So and that's another case where they wouldn't necessarily be or need to be as big as an elephant's leg, because they aren't. Each leg is not supporting as much weight because there's more limbs. And if you get into other arthropods, we get ones that have up to 12 legs. We get into myriapods, and you've got many legs. So no, this analogy with the elephant is not really going to go one for one, due to the multiple limbs not being required in each limb to hold as much weight. So I disagree with the blog writer here. All right. Relation between growth and corporal volume and the growth of locomotor appendices. Tree of Life, master's degree in biodiversity, University of Barcelona. That's where this image comes from. Just the citation I wanted to read. I know it's on there on the screen, but so if body grows, if its body grows, the legs must be larger to hold the entire weight. I agree. Or if each body part has a specific growth rate, allometry, it would be the same with wings. If a dragonfly became as big as a golden eagle, it would have wings of several meters. Yeah. We had pretty big dragonflies or griffinflies, the relatives of the dragonflies in the past. Nothing as big as a golden eagle, but definitely as big as some of the larger birds that we have today. So if its body grows, their legs must be larger to hold the entire weight of its body. Each body part has a specific growth rate, allometry. Oh, we already read that, sorry. But there is a problem. Body parts don't grow to the infinite because they have anatomic and genetic constraints which modulate the size of each organ proportionally to the rest of the organism in a harmonic way. This drives us to talk about the existence of trade-off. It is not possible to reach optimal states of something without the detrimental of the states of something else. Without the detriment, maybe is what they meant? Okay. For this reason, the body will optimize its global growth in order to make the whole organism to work correctly. Thus, all things explained above will prevent the ant from being as big as an elephant. Yeah. Okay. Giant arthropods equals a delicacy for predators. Although it seems illogical, giant arthropods would probably be more vulnerable against predators, specifically during molt, because their body is soft. After molting their cuticles, arthropods go through a low activity period until their cuticle is totally hardened. In this lapse, they could be more easily predated. Apparently, the cuticle would imply more disadvantage than benefits in large insects. That's true. A way around that might be to shed or to molt a portion, one portion at a time. Something like that. Physiological constraints and blood flow, and the problem with atmospheric oxygen. This is I didn't read this all through. I kind of scanned through it and looked at the visuals they have here on the different charts and stuff, because I think that's important to what we're talking about. Arthropods have an open circulatory system. Instead of having arteries and veins to channel their blood, arthropods possess open sinus where blood bathes the organ directly. Right, and it collects, he might get into this, it collects oxygen basically by sloshing against the spiracles. In which way does this imply a constraint for giant insects? While there is no active mechanism that pumps the blood throughout the body, it would be very difficult for giant insects to oxygenate and nourish all its cells due to the gravity effect. On the other side, most insects breathe passively through their spiracles, which connect with the internal system of branched conducts called trachea. Thus, they don't develop an active system to force air to enter the inside of the body, but it enters passively through these trachea. The rest of the inner arthropod's body is oxygenated cells. I've seen insects pumping oxygen through their spiracles, though. I don't know if I agree with that. Diffusion of gases is effective over small distances, but not over large ones. So giant insects would face serious problems to oxygenate their tissue if they reached big sizes. In addition, current atmospheric concentration, the oxygen is 21%, wouldn't be enough to oxygenate such a big organism with such a simple breathing mechanism. Which is true. That's the current model. It must be said that all of these constraints are attenuated in aquatic ecosystems where the cuticles' weight and diffusion of oxygen pose no problem for growth. That explains why the world's biggest arthropods and other invertebrates are mainly located in aquatic ecosystems, which I've already went over earlier in this topic. Giant prehistoric insects. Why did they disappear? According to the fossil record, insects reach their biggest sizes 300 million years ago, between the late Carboniferous and the early Permian. One of the most famous examples of giant prehistoric insects is Meganeura moni, a dragonfly that would have reached 70 centimeters long. So yeah, the one that's about the size of a crow. But the question is, why did they disappear? Paleoclimate data shows that the concentration of atmospheric oxygen was by then up to 30%. So it would be oxygen enough for the maintenance of insects' tissue. Some millions of years later, the concentration of oxygen decreased gradually until reaching the current concentration of 21%. And it's considered that this phenomenon could be correlated with the decrease in insect size. The rising of birds between the late Jurassic and early Cretaceous, atmospheric oxygen progressively increased, but the fossil records show no evidence of any increase in tendencies in insect size. Instead, they grew smaller. How could we explain this? According to the more recent hypothesis, this period coincided with the appearance of the first birds, which probably fed on big insects. So it is suggested that it took place a positive selection in favor of small insects. But not only birds, bats, and also other predators could have contributed to the selection of insects. However, the lack of a complete fossil record makes it difficult to confirm this hypothesis. So birds do eat insects, but I think that we probably saw more than just birds, just little dinosaurs in general, little archosaurs, and early mammals. Synapsids, diapsids have been eating insects for quite a long time, including your ancestors, because yes, we do have an ancestor in our human lineage that was an insectivore, much like Tarsier that we see today. So keep that in mind too. I don't know if they decided that it was an obligate insectivore, but it was definitely an insectivore. The most probable scenario is that a combination of ecological and environmental factors would have determined the body size of insects. Yes, always and forever. The existence of giant insects is part real and part fiction. For many of you, it will be a relief that the existence of insects as big as elephants is almost an impossible fact, but for the rest of you, it'll always have sci-fi. All right, so we got that. Here I was just looking at different things about the arthropod's exoskeleton and the size constraints that might come into play. Because biomineralization is going to create a heavy burden for these organisms to have to molt off as arthropods become larger in size, and we see this with crustaceans that get really big, like lobsters. Each molt that they have after they reach a certain size is potentially their death, because at some point or another the exoskeleton is going to be too thick, too strong for them to molt it off properly, and their squishy little inside is going to be trapped inside a coffin of their own dead shell, and they're going to suffocate and die within it. That does happen to very old arthropods as they grow, especially in marine environments. I don't know, like they said here, in marine environments, there's a lot of different factors that come into play as to why they continue to grow. Some insects, for the most part, have and not all of them, but for the most part, have a set number of molts, and then once they complete that cycle, they die. But crustaceans and scorpions and things like and mygalomorphic spiders, they don't necessarily have as much constraint on how many molts they're going to have, and they just eventually get stuck in a molt and die. So very common occurrence. Biomineralization is how the exoskeleton hardens after the molt. This also becomes a huge issue because the bigger the organism is, the thicker the exoskeleton is, the longer biomineralization takes. Biomineralization, I think maybe we've seen this in the hive. I know I've seen it in the hive, but I don't know if I've shared it or not. But after one of my organisms molt, whether my mantis is or one of my spiders, you leave them alone for a few days for the spiders. But for the mantises, you just leave them alone for a few hours because the spiders have a thicker, heavier exoskeleton that takes longer to biomineralize. So they need days, whereas the mantis just needs a couple hours. The problem with that is that we see in mantises and other insects is that if they don't molt and get that exoskeleton off and get into the position that they need to for biomineralization, because they have to stand a certain way and assume a certain position while the biomineralization takes place. If they can't get into that before that hardening process starts, they end up all bent and twisted and generally non-viable. If it's in their abdomen or in their cephalothorax or cephalorthorax, the limbs, if they have a bad molt where they can't get their limbs into position, it's not always such a big problem. Of course, it's situational, so that's going to depend. But the same thing can happen to these other organisms that take longer to biomineralize. So keeping that in mind, once we got so big, we'd see a lot of mangled-looking giant arthropods if we had that. All right, what else do we have here? Yeah, that was just a Reddit feed that I was going through for links. Blowing up real beetles. It's not part 1. Where was part 1? Okay. Talking about speculative biology here. I was going to read this, but I think I'm probably running out of time. I probably need to be wrapping up here. But we might do like a part 2 on this because I let everything else run long, and Hive Science kind of always suffers from that. But usually I only plan on doing like a 10-minute Hive Science because I know some of these topics can get a little boring if we delve into them too much. So let me go ahead and just wrap up here. We might, again, revisit this topic at another point, maybe with a guest. And let's see here. All right, going through the side chat real quick before I wrap up. Bugs aren't small, they're tiny. Actually, coconut crabs might be big enough to be small. Coconut crabs are big enough to be small. I like that ring. Yeah, gators can get about 13 feet long on average, so probably a bit big for comparison. Right, yeah, I think like a smaller caiman species maybe, or Chinese alligator, but Chinese alligators might actually be too small because I think they only get about 1.5 meters. They might get a little bigger than that, though. I might be wrong about that. Coconut crabs are big enough to be considered small. Got to get back to the farm. Temps today in the 80s. When it gets over 75, then, well, it's time to satisfy my thirst. Peace and love, y'all, and have a happy weekend. See ya, John Hudson. I want dome fried chicken now. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me live from the Hive today. Happy that had such a good turnout and you all were all engaging, and it was really fun to go over these topics with you, especially, I don't know what it was about that Ken Ham article that really sucked me in, but that was supposed to be my short segment today because I was planning it out with like the 3 segments between CryptoCorner, Creation Watch, and Hive Science for one of them to be shorter than the other 2 for that day so I can explore more into those. But today I intended for Ken Ham stuff to be the short, and it just sucked me right in. So That's all right. Had a good time. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming in. And please remember to be kind and take care. And we'll see you next Saturday.